You mentioned terrorism as being the result of injustice in the world. Do you see this as something that we're going to resolve, or is it going to get a lot worse before it gets better?
I think it really depends on how seriously the world takes this problem. I think as terrorism has got worse, people have started to think how they can tackle it. And I think eventually people are going to come to the conclusion that the only way of tackling terrorism is to remove the support that terrorism has among large populations. And the reason that terrorism has this support is because of this question of injustice and unfairness and so on that people perceive. As long as there are large numbers of people who perceive themselves as the victims of injustice and are seeing themselves as being poor when other people around them are rich, then these terrorists are going to have a large base of support, both financial support and in terms of people sheltering them and so on. But as people see that other solutions are not working, in other words, that you can't overcome these problems by exerting a military solution, you can't overcome these problems by being, even the most powerful country in the world cannot by itself overcome these problems. I think once people realize that, and as the realization of that grows, then people will move towards setting up suitable institutions that will solve these problems on a worldwide basis. These problems are global in nature.
It sounds to me like you're talking about the need for international law and international institutions.
It's now more than 100 years ago that Baha'u'llah called for exactly this. What he said at that time was that there's a necessity for the rulers of the world to come together at some sort of international conference, and at this conference the agenda should be that they resolve all of their disputes in terms of boundary questions and so on, if necessary by arbitration. And then once the boundaries of the world have been fixed, the way forward then is for the countries of the world to all agree to guarantee these boundaries. And if we could achieve that sort of a situation, then the need for countries to be spending large amounts of their wealth on military expenditure would be reduced. At the present time, many of the poorest nations in the world are spending 20–30% of their national wealth on military expenditure. And if they could have the security, if they knew that their boundaries were secure and they didn't need all of this military expenditure, they would spend this money on education, health, infrastructure, and so on. These worldwide problems that we face in terms of pollution, in terms of global warming, in terms of the activities of multinational companies, all of these things are now global problems, and they need global institutions that can regulate them. We need some sort of world parliament or a legislature that will regulate these things on the worldwide level. We need an international court of justice that can arbitrate in international disputes. We need these sorts of international institutions more than we have at the moment. We have things like the United Nations and a international court of justice, but at the moment these institutions are not strong enough. They're not really independent. They are subject to manipulation by the stronger nations of the world, and so the weaker nations don't feel that they are truly international and just and impartial organs.